A large severe weather event is soon going to be impacting portions of the Ohio Valley, and later this week we could be talking about a full-scale tornado outbreak across portions of the Midwest. So in this video, we've got you guys updates on everything that you need to know about these upcoming severe weather events, who they're going to impact, what are the impacts going to be, and more. So let's go ahead and get right into it. As many of you probably know by now, the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted a slight risk of severe weather for tomorrow, extending across portions of the Mid-Atlantic and Northern Appalachian regions, and this is driven by a 5% tornado risk, which for this portion of the country is somewhat rare for this time of year. So if you are in this area, make sure that you do have a tornado action plan in play tomorrow. Now, I would not rule out a conditional strong tornado across portions of southeastern Ohio or northeastern Kentucky, and we're going to talk about why later in this video, but you have to remember that that is a very conditional threat. Now, damaging winds and hail are also going to be a possibility. Right now, the Storm Prediction Center has slight risks for both of those threats in play across pretty much the same areas that our slight risk region encompassed in the convective outlook. Now, as we go into later this week, we are actually going to be talking about a pretty significant threat for severe weather across portions of the Central Plains, the Midwest, and even the Southern Plains, as we talked about earlier. Right now, the Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk of severe weather in place for Thursday, extending from sections of northwestern Missouri all the way back through northern portions of Iowa. I would not rule out tornadoes, damaging winds, or hail on this date, but remember, we are still somewhat far out for forecasting this event. And on the day 6 slight risk, the Storm Prediction Center actually has a huge outline here from parts of central Michigan all the way back into northern Texas. So definitely going to be looking out for a pretty significant threat for severe weather on both Thursday and Friday, and we will be live on both of those days covering severe weather, so make sure that you are subscribed with notifications on. Now, as we go ahead and look back at our Ohio Valley event here once again, this time we're going to take a look at the models and what they're showing in terms of convection for this event. Now, the new run of the HRRR is being very aggressive here, showing discrete activity as early as 4 p.m. across portions of central Kentucky. Now, if things continue to trend like this, there is a good chance that we see the slight risk get extended back further down to the southwest and potentially even an enhanced risk getting introduced, because if we see this many discrete supercells across portions of Kentucky and West Virginia, we could be talking about a full-on localized tornado outbreak. So if you are in this area, again, make sure that you do have a tornado action plan in place. Our threat looks to peak at about 7 or 8 p.m. As of right now, that would be 8 or 9 p.m. Eastern time, where, again, a couple of tornadoes and maybe a brief strong tornado definitely can't be ruled out there across the Mid-Atlantic region. Now, the NAM model is somewhat less aggressive and has a different storm mode with this event as well, but you've got to remember that this is an older run than what the HRRR is basing this off of, and even the NAM still has discrete activity across portions of southern Ohio throughout the evening time hours of tomorrow. And by the time you get to the late nighttime hours, we're still going to be talking about a big-time damaging wind and hail threat across portions of West Virginia and even Maryland. So again, make sure that you do have multiple ways to receive alerts. Again, it's looking like this is going to be mainly a Appalachian threat, but there's a good chance that we do see some hail and wind and maybe an isolated tornado threat linger onto the East Coast. Now, if we go ahead and take a look at a sounding here from this event, if we pull from the area where we have the highest significant tornado parameter values on the newest run of the HRRR model, which is East Central Kentucky, we can see that we're going to be talking about a pretty impressive environment here, actually. We're dealing with 127 joules per kilogram of CAPE within the first 3 kilometers of the atmosphere, which, if you're not aware, is actually very impressive. Usually you want about 50 or sometimes up to 75, depending on the environment, to fuel severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. So 127 is going to be more than enough. We've got 68 knots of shear at the effective layer, which is also a pretty impressive amount. We've got dew points at 64 degrees with a steep drop-off in those in the higher kilometers of the atmosphere, which is going to lead to a pretty significant hail threat. Moving over to the hail analogs, we can see that we do have some up to baseball size here based on historical events with a similar setup. So definitely quite concerning. You also notice we do have several significant supercell analogs there. So again, we're definitely going to have that chance to see at least a brief, strong tornado threat somewhere across portions of Kentucky or West Virginia would be my guess of the area. Our lapse rates are sitting at about 7 Celsius per kilometer, which is definitely going to be enough to fire off tornadoes. And again, maybe a brief, strong one. The photograph isn't super impressive, but you still see we've got that nice curvature on it and a pretty good wind profile in general. So now moving over to our event that we're expecting to unfold on Friday here. This was a sounding taken from the GFS model from southwestern Iowa on Friday morning and afternoon. Now, you have to remember that the GFS model is not good at focusing on specific areas for a great severe weather threat because it's not a super high resolution model. So we certainly will be able to pull a higher, more impressive sounding whenever we start to get those higher resolution models coming in as the event gets closer and closer. But you also have to remember that the shift could downtrend or uptrend entirely by the time that that gets here, because we are currently forecasting about 100 hours out for this event, so some of this data may be somewhat unreliable. However, it's still impressive to note that this far out on the GFS, we're seeing 2,000 joules per kilogram of most unstable CAPE. We've got ourselves over 60 knots of wind shear, SRH values over 500, and we're already seeing significant supercell analogs and a pretty impressive hodograph considering that we're forecasting 100 hours out here. So definitely quite concerning, but again, remember, we are expecting things to change so much here for this event, and you shouldn't take any of this as gospel by any means at this point in the forecasting, or at all, because sometimes these Central Plains events in the spring are somewhat hard to forecast. A lot of times, historically, our moderate and enhanced risk days will end up being more impressive than some of our high-risk events that we end up getting. But what you should take away from this is that there is somewhat of an impressive signal for some significant severe weather across especially the Central Plains later this week. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the current watches, warnings, and advisories in effect across the country. We can see in those pink shaded boxes there, we've got our red flag warnings going out for sections of the Southern and Central Plains. So if you're in those areas, make sure that you're avoiding doing any burning. We do still have some flood warnings in effect across portions of the mid-Mississippi Valley, and that's only going to get worse as more rainfall comes in. So make sure that you are staying prepared out there. Turn around, don't drown in flooded roadways. But outside of that, pretty calm right now. Before we do end off this video, I do want to quickly thank all of our channel members. As always, you guys are what keep this channel running. If you would like to become a channel member, make sure to do so by clicking the link down in the description. Channel members get access to exclusive content. You get early access to certain videos, exclusive shoutouts at the end of every single forecast, and custom stickers and emojis to use in live chats. But anyway, that's all I've got for you guys today. So if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Remember, if anything does get too intense over the next few days, we will be doing live severe weather coverage for people all across the country here, and potentially hours and hours on end based off of what the event is looking like so far later this week. But again, that's all I've got for you guys today. So thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Peace.